Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. In our previous number of lessons, we covered the passive form in Japanese, and so now, starting with this video, we are now going to begin coverage of basically the opposite of the passive form, the causative form. So what we're going to be doing in this lesson is basically the introduction of how to conjugate verbs into their causative form. And this is actually going to be easier than it could have been because we've already covered the passive form, and that familiarity of conjugating verbs into their passive form is going to help us extremely with the causative form. So basically the shortcut that we're going to use here is we're going to follow the exact same rules that were provided for turning verbs into their passive form, but in every instance that we would have replaced something with the two characters reru, instead for the causative form we're going to replace it with the two characters seru. And also in every instance where we would have replaced something with the characters rareru, we're instead for the causative form going to replace it with saseru. So that's the shortcut that's going to be extremely helpful if you already know how to conjugate verbs into their passive form and now want to do verbs in their causative form. But just to give a more extensive rundown, we'll go through the exact steps. And so we're going to start off like usual with the category ofる-Verbs. So if we want to change a ru-verb and we have it in its dictionary form and we want to turn it into its causative form, all we do is we drop the ru at the end of the verb and replace it with saseru. So some really quick examples: if we have the ru verb miru, which means to watch, to see, to look, and we want to change that into the causative form, to made look, to made see, etc., we take miru, we drop the ru at the end, we have mi, then we add the three characters saseru. So miru turns into misaseru. Really easy. Another ru verb, if we have the ru verb taberu, want to change that to the causative form, we drop the ru, so we have tabe, we add saseru, so taberu turns into tabe saseru. One more example with ru verbs: if we have the ru verb neru, which means to sleep, we want to change that into the causative conjugation, we drop the ru at the end, so now we just have ne, add saseru, so neru turns into ne saseru. And so yeah, like I said, really easy, especially for the ru verbs. Now we're going to move on to the u-verbs. And again, this is basically going to follow the same guidelines as the passive form conjugation. We break down the u-verbs into two categories: the u-verbs that actually end in the vowel character u, and the u-verbs that don't end in the vowel character u. For the ones that do end in the vowel character u, we're simply going to drop that final u because it has no consonant before it. Then we replace that with the character wa. Then after that we add on the characters seru. If we have the verb kao, which means to buy, we want to change that into the causative form, drop the final u, replace that with wa, then add seru. So kao turns into kawaseru. Lastly, if we have the u verb that ends in u, which means to say, we want to change that into the causative form, we drop the u at the end, so now we just have I basically. We add wa and we add seru, so u turns into iwaseru. And so yeah, that's how we do that for the u verbs that end in the character u. Now for the u verbs that don't end in the character u, they end in a character that in turn ends with the English u, but there's a consonant before it to make it a separate Japanese character. What we're going to do, just like we did for the passive form conjugation, is we're going to drop that English u inside that character so that we only have the consonant left. Then we replace that with the English letter a, basically, to add on to the consonant and make that a whole different Japanese character. Then after that we add on the characters seru. So for example, if we have the u verb shinu, which means to die, it doesn't end in the vowel character u, but it ends in the character nu, which has the English u inside of it. We drop that English u, so we just have the consonant n now. Then we replace the u with an a, and we add that onto the consonant n, so n and a turned into the Japanese character na. So now we have shina, and then we just add seru. So then it becomes shinaseru. So the causative form of shinu is shinaseru. Next up, if we have the verb iku, which is an u verb, but it ends in ku, not u. We drop the u inside of ku, so now we just have the letter k, we add an a, so then k plus a turns into ka, and then we add seru, so iku turns into ikaseru. One more example for this: if we have the verb yomu, which means to read, it ends with the character mu, we take out the u inside of mu, so we just have the consonant m, replace it with an a, so m and a turn into ma now, and then we add seru, so yomu is in its causative form yomaseru. And so that's how we change u verbs into their causative form. And now lastly, all we have to do is cover the two irregular verbs for the causative form, and they're going to be the exact same two verbs that were irregular in the passive form, the verbs kuru and suru. So the causative form of the irregular verb kuru is going to be kosaseru, and the causative form of the irregular verb suru is going to be saseru. And so that covers the conjugation of verbs into their causative form. In our next lesson, we will go into how the causative form is used in the construction of a sentence, what it means, and etc.